Alright, these are 5/16, and you better get a good one because they are on there, you know. And these are the old style split ring where they actually fracture. Look at those things. They actually fracture the connecting rod, and you got to make sure you put them on the right way because the fracture will not match up if you don't. So in this case right here, I mean, it's almost impossible not to because the fractures are different. Yeah, this is not good. They're pretty scored up. Things are not as good as I would have hoped. So I'm not sure what I'm going to be able to salvage out of this one. But I'm going to come up with a bin for each hole. And so I'm not sure I can actually use this crank either. Maybe I'll see if I can find somebody who can fix the crank. Alright, let's hammer this out so we have something salvageable. This is a broken piston. Now there appears to have been some significant upgrades in the bearings. The piston I just took apart before did not have a caged wrist pin bearing. It had a handful of needles, kind of what I used to see in the old Mercuries. This one here appears to have a caged bearing. This is the one that came out of the later 1984 motor. And what I've done is I've put a rag underneath my anvils so that I can push this wrist pin into that so I don't lose bits and pieces like I just finished doing. And I've got these heated up to about 350 degrees. Pretty warm. Pretty toasty. So let's see if we can drive this one out. A little less dramatically. There it goes. The idea is to try to salvage what I can out of the bearings. This is an experimental approach. Hopefully that we got all the way through. Find out. But these old motors were built. You know, if you're used to seeing the stuff I do with a chainsaw, nothing really translates in terms of how strong these are built as compared So there's a bearing. Probably none the worse for wear with the heat. And hopefully I've got a wrist pin in there. This is the piston that had broke. It's trash. This connecting rod is, I'd say that's pretty much trash. That's what we got for a wrist pin. I think I've got a good wrist pin. So we can use that wrist pin and bearing, I think. Now what I'm kind of hoping is when I chill the wrist pin that I'm going to use, if I chill them down in the freezer and then warm the new pistons up, that the heat differential will allow me just to sort of set them right in. Do this one next. I'm going to keep these pistons around. I think these pistons are actually pretty good. You should have seen me pulling these wrist pin clips out of here. That was a show all by itself. Yeah, they're in there hard. Yep, they're in there that hard. No kidding. Okay. Here is a connecting rod. Oh no, that's my push rod. That's what you have down here. That piston doesn't look bad at all. It may have a future in a different motor. So I'm going to keep it around out of here, and hopefully I got a decent wrist pin. I think I got a good wrist pin. And then let's just get this last one out of here. Last one. Piston's actually salvageable. New set of rings will be fine. I think. Yeah, the connecting rod looks good. Let me fish out that wrist pin and see what we got for a wrist pin. I think that wrist pin's fine. So let's see what we got here. When you start looking at the quality of the stuff that's in this motor, unreal. Absolutely shockingly good. The rest of this is over here. That's the cap. So, oh, here are the clips that hold the wrist pin in, and got plenty of those. So what I got to do is I got to let these chill down, and then I'm going to see what I have. I've got 3 good connecting rods, I believe. 3 good wrist pin bearings. From what I can tell, they look fine. You know, I'm going to keep them together, because I figure what they've done over time is they've wore themselves in to fit. Yeah, that was fine. That was fine too. And this one here, same part number but from a different motor. That's going to replace the bad connecting rod. But the bearing and the wrist pin from that bad piston is still good. I think that's fine. So basically we're going to keep these together. So there's my 3. 1, 2, 3. I'll start doing these short little videos on this motor, but I think changing out the pistons and building the connecting rods, I mean, that's a significant event. That doesn't just happen. That takes a little bit of skill and some tools. I can't believe how much I had to heat those in order to get those to even break free. And in the manual they had said to get them to 300 plus degrees. Well, I got them to 350 degrees. So what I'm hoping is this, is if I take these now and then put them in the refrigerator, the freezer actually, and get them down to like maybe, 20, 25 degrees. The new pistons, let me show you a new piston. Heat these up to 350 degrees plus. I'm hoping they drop in without so much trauma. But look how much meat are on these pistons. These things are just brutally strong. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to be able to get the connecting rods and pistons together today. I mean, that's an operation all of in itself. I got brand new rings. I've got the block overboard, 20 thousandths over. And once I get the crank, connecting rods and pistons assembled, the rest of it's pretty much block and tackle. Well, they clean up pretty quick, but they did need a little attention. Got rid of the aluminum wipe on them, just cleaning them up with 1,000 grit wet dry paper. One more to go. Let me see the before and after. That one's not bad to begin with. A little scratched up, but it'll be fine. You can see this one here had gotten hot. That's why it has that gold patina color on it. I believe that was the one on the bottom piston. When I'm done with these, they're going to outlast me. That's so tight. Wow. There's no wear, there's no play. So, I mean, that's fine. Let's see what this one's like. This one too, there's no wear, there's no play. None. Nothing. No play. Smooth. No play. So these parts are fine. I mean, there's nothing. No play at all. So I'll clean up this wrist pin anyway. And I don't know. I don't know if it's worth doing. It's nice to have spares. The takeaway, though, from this operation is that these damn things are built. Oh my God. I mean, they're big, heavy, strong components. Look how thick these pistons are. Look at that. And those are a press fit. There's no way those wrist pins are going anywhere. And plus they have the those clips. So it's redundancy on top of redundancy. I guess you got to think that way with a marine engine. You also have to remember that these had their design roots in the 1960s. And at that point in time, they were still learning, what you can get away with. So they over-designed pretty much everything. The kind of things that would kill these motors are bad fuel, bad oil, overheating, and things like that. But the mechanics of them are just unbelievably strong. So this is a little interesting to me. This was the bearing that came out of the one piston I had bought for its connecting rod. And if you notice, the bearing style is quite a bit different. I kind of like these newer caged ones quite a bit better. I bet these are stronger though. I bet they last longer. Oh my God, they already have lasted, what, 40 years. So, just a little tidbit, the difference between the old and the new. The pistons, old versus new, appear to be the same. The connecting rod part number was the same. What I want to do is, the old style had those machined in there. I wonder if that gap right there is different on the old versus the new. I'll measure them. Question is, can I use these pistons someday in the future on some of the other motor projects I have, I guess. But just a lot of this stuff, you go through the part numbers and they've made changes on top of changes over the years. It's one of those things where you pretty much need to pay attention to your part numbers. Notice that we're going 20 thousandths over. I got 3 of them. And what's going to happen now is those 3 pistons are going to get warmed up in the turkey oven. And I'm going to take these wrist pins and put them in a plastic bag and put them in the freezer and chill them. And I'm hoping it takes a lot less effort to get them in the pistons than it did to take them out. Alright, well I'm going to start, before I start cooking these pistons, to put the retaining rings in on one side so that when I press the wrist pin in on this side here, when it gets to this side here, it'll hit up against that retaining pin. And that's a trick in of itself. So let me see if I can successfully do that. I got one in. I did it with my fingers, believe it or not. Alright, we're going to make an attempt with one. I've got these wrist pins where I've got them chilled down and I've got them wiped off. And hopefully they're ready to go right in. We will find out in just a minute. It dropped into that point there. See if I can get this to go the rest of the way. This is kind of cool because it pops out. If you're going to do it cold, you can get another bite on it like this by moving it in. It's got these little springs. That. And let me set this right in here. Do this. And see if I can drive it home. Wow. It's going. Just about there. Alright, let's see if we got it. There's one. right up against the other ring, so it's pretty much where it has to be. The other thing is the lettering on the connecting rod has to correspond to this side right here, not the other side. All right, let's go to the next. I'm going to set these right in a box. There's one. Before I do anything, let me wipe this down. Okay, let's chill. Get my handy dandy glove on and see if we can assemble another one. Okay, set right there. Set this right like that. It goes right in. All right. If I can get this to go the rest of the way before it chills down. Goes. Wind that right in. Boy, it's tight. It's chilling down, that's what it is. There it goes. Bottom right out. Get this off. Right, it's right up against the ring. Do another one. Get this all wiped down. A little bit of oil on that one. One more. Get this set right here. See if we can do this one even faster. So what happens is once you get going, gotta make sure that's correct. Yes. Got the letters to the right side. Letters to the right side. Alright, one more. There's my letters. Chilled down wrist pin. Set it right here. Get this started. Goes right to there. And go right on through. There it goes. Quickly get it with this. Before it chills down. There it goes. This one's going easier. I got to it a little quicker. I haven't used this tool here in 40 years. I used to do Mercury's. Alright. It's in far enough. Letters to the right side. I have those pistons now assembled. I just need a box to put it in. Alright. Old wristband. This is an old Mercury marine shop tool I've had forever. And here's one of the old pistons. Now I've got 3 pistons here for standard size. And I think they're all salvageable. A set of rings, scuff that up, I think it would be fine. Now I've got a couple more of these 3-cylinders we're going to do, so it's good to have that. But job for today is getting those done. That was my goal. Now there's another couple of things of interest on this system right here. You notice it's got the caged wrist bearing. We're going to put some oil in there, get that all lubed up. And the other thing is these things here, they have to fit. You can't mix them up because that's a fractured piece. They actually have this thing forged and then they actually crack these. So that crack is not linear, it's not symmetric. So the one cap only fits on the one connecting rod half that it was fractured from. Now there's good news and bad news. The good news is when they go back together, they're pretty close. You know. The bad news is you mix them up, you've got a mess on your hands. And see, when they line up, the fracture actually helps align it. You can't even feel that crack in there with your fingers. Now we're going to get some oil on that too. I don't like putting my fingers on the bearing surface. So, and the second thing is the older ones, they had these needle bearings and kept them from going out too far, but you'd have a whole line of those all the way around the wrist pin. And now I was putting these in, the camera ran out of battery, but what I was doing with these, setting them like this, where that end is just past that cutout, and I was using a screwdriver just to pop them in. They went in pretty good. The first one I was able to do with my fingers. Makes you nervous. And that was how I got them in. And of course I put them on the one side and then I let the wrist pin slide up against that. That's how I knew it was seated. So, mission is accomplished. I'll make a short video of that. And the boat build continues. Talk to you later. Bye for now. Appreciate your patience in all this.